This is just a quick review of the test that's coming up. Uh, Most of my tests are pretty much laid out the same way. As most people should know, the first portion of a test is terms, because people are going to be using these terms, so they're good to know. What we're studying this chapter are arrays. So what an array is, it's a structure that can store many of the same kind of data together at once. So basically what that means is I can have a list of integers, a list of strings, a list of objects, anything really I want. I can just make a list of them. Makes it easier to store, access a whole group of bit of information. Common errors, array index out of bounds exception. This exception is thrown when you go outside the bounds of the array. An array, let's say, is set for 10 slots. If I try to go to 11 or 12 or 13, that's not within the bounds of the array. So it's going to break. Whenever you create an array, it creates a section in memory. And that's where all that information is going to be located at. If you try to go outside of that reserved section, well, there isn't anything there. So it throws an error. Dynamic array is an array that basically changes at runtime. Basically, what that means is, I use a variable instead of, int, array name equals new int with 5, making it size 5. I can use a variable instead. Beginning of the program, I can just, how big do you want the array to be? 20, and it will change, the size of that array. Element is one data item in the array. So element 0, the very first element, whatever number or item is there, that's an element. Index is that 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 that you use to go down the list of where everything is. We've done a linear search before, and that basically just means you start at the beginning of the array and you move yourself down in a straight line, basically. Just zoop from beginning to end. This is used a lot for loops, going through the entirety of the array, looking for something. You start at the top and go all the way down until you find it, linear search. Traversing just means iterating through the array, going from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. You're traversing the array. Those are the terms. Now the next part would be reading the code. So what you need to know is effectively how regular arrays work, how they're defined, all the different kinds, integers, strings, doubles, whatever. Single dimensional will be most of it, but there probably will be a question or two about two-dimensional arrays as well. Uh, know how that works, how you can access things in them, how you can print things from an array, put things in an array. Some of the little finer details and errors we've talked about. Like if you, for example, have an array that's set for 5 slots. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are the slots. What happens if I go to the 5th slot? You get that array index out of bounds. You could possibly see that. Now, what if I say, I made my array, I filled it with numbers, and then I just say array 0 equals 20? Well, that's okay. I can change any of those variables anytime I want. And that's a common misconception. People will say, oh, that's an error. No, you can change a variable. It's just like making an integer and changing it later. As long as I don't define it again, I can change it to whatever I want. Of course, that's going to be the reading of the code. Now, the last portion of the test will effectively be writing. So know how to create an array, how to access it, how to do stuff to it, print it, that sort of thing. Different kinds of arrays. And that's effectively the test. It's not going to be laid out any differently than normal. Uh, Same 3 sections: terms, reading code, and then of course writing at the end. And again, for the reading, I don't want you to go out and outline every single word and what it's specifically doing. I just want to know, given the numbers, the inputs, whatever I give you, what is the ending result that appears on the screen. Unless I'm asking something specific, like, is this an error? Or something like that. Uh, Otherwise, just tell me what is the end result at the end. Then I know you pretty much know what it's doing. All right, and that's the test review.